Brussels is an attraction point at the moment since there is an economic forum, and this economic forum is a great opportunity to share the risks, to share the interests with our colleagues.
The Brussels Economic Forum is the European Union's platform for debate on economic issues. It is an opportunity to meet decision makers, opinion leaders, and other key players from government authorities, international organizations, European institutions, financial institutions, social partners, academia, and the media.
Title, I think it's quite telling. It says Rethinking Economic Policy in the European Union, which is really what I think everybody tries to do with all the experience we went through with this financial crisis and then the sovereign debt, etc., is to really find new ideas, new instruments, new ways of responding to these challenges. That's the main topic this time.
Your presence here is a clear signal of the continued support for reforming economic policy in Europe. It will only be when all the necessary actors and institutions pull in the same direction that we will build sufficient critical mass to make a real difference, both on the European level and in our member states.
Well, the forum is about economic governance in the European Union, which is very timely, as we have found during the financial crisis that some of the institutions that we had did not work that well. There was a lack of fiscal discipline in many countries, so the Stability and Growth Pact failed, and now there is an intense discussion going on how to improve these institutions, and the conference hopefully will deliver some input on that.
Well, today this has been the Brussels Economic Forum, and I have been talking in a panel on how to make the new economic governance reforms that we're working on at the moment, how to make them more effective. And also we've talked about other issues to do with the sovereign debt crisis and generally how to make things work better in Europe.
What were the topics of the conference that were the most relevant to you?
To me, well, obviously the economic governance package, which is 6 pieces of legislation that the Parliament is now working on, and we've got to the stage that we're in negotiations with the Council on the final outcome, so it's really quite hard negotiations, and we're trying to push the Council to move further in our direction. One of the things that we're really keen on, and that the Council don't seem to be so keen on, is to find a way to involve the European Parliament and the national parliaments in the debate before any kind of measures are taken against a country for not having its books balanced. We think that citizens need to have this information.
Many of the topics discussed today were very interesting for me. As far as our market infrastructures might indeed suffer during the crisis, we have seen that many of the participants in the settlement system, so many of banks suffered a lot from the crisis.
Well, I think we have to find some longer-term solution to the current difficulties. And in a sense, there is a stark choice. On the one hand, the euro could unravel completely, or alternatively, if we want to make sure that the euro remains intact, we really have to embrace deeper economic integration and construct some institute or institution as originally envisaged by Werner to ensure that there is the type of coordination of policy that's missing at the moment. The problem, I think, is that the political willingness to do this is not present. I don't mean really in terms of the European elite, where it probably is, but in terms of the individual countries of Europe, where people are not willing to go that far.
I think the whole question of the future of the Eurozone is obviously absolutely central to everyone's thinking at the moment. And that came into every session. And the core issue there is, can a coherent discipline be created that will be adhered to by countries within the Eurozone, and also, vitally, will get the confidence of the markets.
What's the current situation of the economic policy in Europe? What are the most important issues that the general public should be aware of?
Well, we have at this stage what people call a two-speed Europe. We have countries in the center around Germany and Germany itself, which are doing actually quite well. Germany had its highest growth rate last year since unification. We're having unemployment that is below that of the financial before the financial crisis. So the center, the core, is doing quite well. But we have some countries at the periphery of the euro area who are in very deep difficulties. We have ongoing recession in Greece. We have ongoing recession in Portugal. We have very fragile situation in Ireland. And much of the discussions that we are having, in addition to the topic of economic governance and related to it, is how to bring these countries back to financial stability and how to bring these countries back to growth.
I think, first of all, European states have to create a framework that will keep individual economies within the Eurozone in a reasonable balance and not allow them to take advantage of the rules which are either not enforced or are not sufficiently clear to ensure that people follow them. I think that's the central thing, because the debt crisis has caused a crisis of confidence in the Eurozone's ability to police itself.
The most important thing is how to be able to restore employment after this great recession that we have been through, which has a global character, but in which Europe somehow has been growing less than many other areas of the world. And secondly, how to have this balanced. Balance means trying to have countries which are now in a financial crisis to get out from the crisis, and countries which are growing at pace which is too moderate to introduce structural changes, reforms, what they're called, to raise productivity and with that growth rates and employment.
We were curious about how the general public was affected by the financial and global crisis.
Did the global crisis affect your life?
Actually, it does a lot, because I work for the VDIB. It's the Flemish institution for employment. So we did notice the crisis on first hand.
How?
We saw the progression of the number of unemployed explode, and we saw the impact on all the industries.
En Belgique, avec la crise pour trouver un boulot, beaucoup d'étudiants qui sortent de l'université sont obligés de changer de formation ou de trouver un autre job en attendant de trouver le job pour lequel ils ont fait leurs études. Et c'est un vrai problème en Belgique, c'est vraiment la crise, quoi. Mais ça date pas d'aujourd'hui, ça date déjà un an ou deux. Et donc nous sommes, par exemple, nous on étudie le droit, on est obligé de faire une autre formation dans les antiquités ou dans la médecine ou même dans la vente. On n'a pas vraiment le choix pour le moment de faire ce qu'on veut faire. On doit faire ce qu'on nous propose dans les entreprises, dans les intérims de recrutement.
the global crisis affect your life anyhow, or did you experience it?
At first not, but 1 year ago my father lost his work, and now we feel that we have less money. We feel it.
Strengthening European economic governance, surveillance of fiscal and macroeconomic imbalances was one of the main issues during the conference.
How will European economic governance be strengthened, and how will ordinary people benefit from it?
It will be strengthened because what we propose, and we hope it will be adopted, is that we will pay more attention to two things. One is debt developments, government debt developments, and then what we call macroeconomic imbalances, which means imbalances in the economy that in the end make the situation very bad. For instance, losing competitiveness, that means you are not able to gain markets outside, you are more expensive than the others, meaning increasing private debt, that creates a lot of problems because you are buying beyond what you can really finance based on your own country wealth. And these two things have to be identified early enough in order to avoid situations like the one in Ireland or the one in Greece that we are facing now. If they are identified early enough, they can be corrected with less pain than it is now the case.
What is your own professional and personal opinion about the integrated economic governance in the EU?
I think it's a very complicated matter. I think that we should avoid making the mistake that sometimes we've done in the past of trying to force countries to be too similar to each other and to follow too much the same policies. I think some coordination is good, but an excessive push towards making countries too similar to each other is going to be counterproductive. And second, we should always remember that solidarity and redistribution across borders is more difficult than within borders. So we always have to remember that we cannot ask too much certain country to pay for the problem of other countries.
Europe has been shaken by this crisis, which has led us to question many aspects of our economic and fiscal policies. But what has emerged is a clear message that changes must be made if we are both to live up to new realities while also preserving important elements of our social model, what we like to say, our social market economy.
Yeah, I think we will have to do two things. I mean, for one thing, the existing mechanism on how to supervise, how to correct fiscal imbalances is going to be improved. Sanctions, penalties are going to be enforced much better than before. But we're also looking at the economy in a more broader sense. You know, if in the past we were operating like dentists, focusing on part of the body, we realized that we only do dentistry, we cannot prevent illnesses in other parts of the body. Now we have to take a complete approach. We have to look at the whole body of the economy. That's a big progress relative to the previous mechanism, the previous things that we did. But also in addition, we have to enlist better financial markets as corrective mechanisms for countries and private sector entities that borrow. Over the last 10 years, financial markets have been very indulgent. They have depressed interest rates to very low levels. They have not discriminated much about the debt of some of the peripheral countries and some of the core countries. And now we have to make sure that financial markets play a better role in sending warning signals to borrowers that have overstepped their borrowing capacity.
What are the implications of this forum for the citizens of Europe?
EU citizens obviously are faced with the consequences and the aftermath of the crisis in their everyday lives. If there are consolidation measures, it has implications on people's life, it has implications on the situation of their economies, but also it has implications on their personal welfare, it has implications on the availability of the jobs for them and for their children, it has implications on how their governments would be equipped to take care of their pensions when they would be reaching retirement age. So this is all very relevant and important, and the intention is to get it right. The best scenario would be not to have crises and not to have emergency situations, but we know from the past that and from recent past that somehow most likely we will not be able to avoid them fully and completely in the future, so it's better to be prepared and to be equipped.
In your opinion, what are the most important lessons to be learned from the global crisis?
One lesson for sure is that we need to be more careful when it comes to the financial sector and supervise the financial sector better so that things don't get out of hand. Another very important lesson is that we are much more dependent on each other across countries and across borders than we thought before the financial crisis. So we have to cooperate more in order to get better when it comes to dealing with the financial sector.
We have learned that we have to be prepared for the bad times, that we need to really pay attention to how our economies develop in so-called good times, that we cannot take good times for granted, and we need to create certain security zone and certain buffer during the good times in order to be better equipped to face the bad times. And also we have learned that it's very important to have fully functional and complete institutional setup and structure in terms of legal base, in terms of institutions, in terms of procedures, in order to address the important issues when the times become difficult.
We asked our passengers regarding their opinions of the current stage of the financial crisis.
At what stage of the crisis do you think Europe is at?
We're now progressing, so we're getting out of the crisis. For Belgium, at least.
I think business is booming again. I mean, we have a lot of projects with AA, and we don't have enough employees to fill in the requests.
I think that for Flanders, the economy is getting better now.
I think the crisis for Belgium, it's over.
Over the years, the topics under discussion have changed too, always pointing towards the future challenges facing the EU, from the sustainability of public finances and the economic impact of aging, to tackling global warming and exiting the financial and economic crisis.
How do you see the economic future of Europe? What should people expect?
More integration over time, and improving living standards also over time, because growth is coming back, and gradually lower unemployment, but unfortunately unemployment in some countries will stay with us as a serious issue for many years to come.
We will grow, and I think that we will adjust and come out stronger for it with a stronger euro at the end. But I think we have got a long way to go in working out exactly how to get to that end goal. I mean, the next year is going to continue to be very interesting in terms of the developments that we have to take. One of the things the Parliament is very interested in is the whole idea of Euro bonds, which is very controversial for some countries. But it would be good for the economy of Europe if we had a bond market that was as fluid and similar to that of the United States. We're big enough to do it. The question is, how can we do it without it looking all the time like one country is subsidising another? And there are mechanisms to do this. If maybe you link it into things like the Stability and Growth Pact. So we very much hope that in due course the Commission will make some very serious investigations of where we can go on that issue.
Now we face a lot of challenges, and definitely Lithuania also and other Baltic states are also facing huge challenges related with the future of Eurozone. Definitely, first of all, we need to know where are we going, and secondly, we need to be prepared for any economic turbulences that might happen in the future.
I am optimistic. I think that Europe is a rich region. It will continue to be rich, and it's just a matter of whether it will choose to adopt policy that will lead to sustained growth or not. But I think that one silver lining in this crisis is that it made people understand that certain reforms are necessary, and sometimes a crisis is a good beginning of doing the right thing when the right thing were not done. So I'm optimistic.